I have 3 words for you. SK Austria Klagenfurt. Might be 2 words. I don't know what the SK stands for, but if that sounds familiar, then you'd be right, because they are, and I'm talking about Klagenfurt here, whose name I'm probably totally mispronouncing, are West Ham's new affiliate club. We found out about this, didn't we, Joe? Because SK Austria Klagenfurt, we bought a player from them and then we gave it back to them, right?
Yeah, it all happened sort of in the last few days of the transfer window as well, which allows you, I think if you're a club and you want to get something done under the radar, you do it in the last few days of the transfer window, because there's so much stuff going on. It's easy to get missed. And even as West Ham fans, I think we've sort of not missed it per se, but not given it as much attention. If this came out now, if West Ham announced right now, we've got this new affiliated club, it would be big news. Every channel will be doing videos, all the West Ham websites be doing articles, One Football will be sending you a notification, West Ham announced an affiliated club, etc., etc. It'd be big news because there's not that much other news going on, hence why we're making a video about it. But because they snuck it in there, sort of in the last few days of the transfer window, we've not really picked up on it, and it's not really been looked into or researched as to what this actually means for West Ham. Now, also, like you said, we've signed a player from them and loaned him straight back immediately. Whether that's somebody we hope will have a future at West Ham, or whether that's almost like a way of giving them a bit of payment or something, I'm not too sure. We'll have to wait and see. Whether he comes to West Ham and plays an appearance for us, that will tell us why we've signed him. But I think it's interesting, to say the least. Now, it's got me very intrigued as to what West Ham's plans are here, because it could be a good thing. Nothing could come of it. We've also had an affiliation in the past with that Dutch club, didn't we? And nothing really came of that. We've sent a couple of youngsters over there for loan, and that was pretty much it. But hopefully this is something that's going to be a bit substantial for West Ham going forward.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I would really like to see it benefiting us in a certain way. But just to tell you a few things, I didn't know anything about the club at all. Clearly, it was not going to surprise anybody if I tell you that I don't follow the Austrian league. However, at a point where it was announced that there would be some affiliation, or certainly the rumours started, I started to have a little look at them. I think I was guilty of assuming they were going to be really crap. I'm sorry, just me. But they're not. They're up in the top division. They're currently 4th there. And even when I'd look at this Andy Irving, who I'd never heard of before, he's playing. He's playing either central midfield or attacking midfield for them. So, okay, well, this is good, because what you don't want to have is an affiliation with a club whereby they get some players, which is, in essence, they're there to fatten them up for the main club, the feeder club, which is a bad term for it, are there to fatten them up. For the bigger club, which in this instance is West Ham. You want them to be at a certain level. There's no point, I've always thought, having a feeder club or an affiliate club at conference level, because they're just not going to be playing at that high level, so to speak. So you almost want them just on the next rung down. And with that, I think it's a pretty good thing. One of the reasons we're doing it is because, as I understand it, the work permit post-Brexit, the work permit considerations are different now in terms of us getting a footballer over. They need to have gained a certain amount of points. I'm not going to pretend to understand exactly how it works. So the idea is that we park players at this club. They earn these points that eventually gain them a work permit, so as they can come and work and play football in the UK. That's the general idea. But there is something else with this which I'd really like to see, and it's not something I've heard as yet. And that's our own really talented crop of young players. I don't just want to see us signing players, parking them there, which is very much the Chelsea model, of course, which they were the ones, I think, that first started it. I'd really like to see us giving some of our players a chance over there. Maybe Kadua goes over there and plays for half a season, or Earthy, or whoever it may be. That is something I'd really like to see, Geo, is to use it. And that I feel that would really benefit both clubs as well, basically.
Just taking myself off mute, I was clicking away, so I'm muting myself. You didn't hear me clicking. Yeah, I think the youngsters would be a wise thing to do, because we're not very good at it. We're not good at loaning out our youngsters. You can count on one hand the successful loan spells that we've done, where the youngsters have gone there, they've improved, they've gained a lot of experience and they've come back and played for West Ham. It doesn't happen. Actually, the two players that have come out of academy recently and gone into our first team haven't had loan spells. Ben Johnson and Declan Rice, they've not actually gone out on loan. They've stayed at West Ham. And those that have gone on to do well with loan spells are no longer at West Ham. Josh Cullen being the biggest example. We kept putting him out on loan here, putting him out on loan there, and then suddenly we let him go permanently, and now he's playing in the Premier League. So, traditionally our loan spells have been poor. So even the youngsters, it's the senior players as well. The Vlasic one, I would argue, sort of worked because he got his move to Torino, but for 8 million. So did it really work? The Felipe Anderson one was the biggest disaster in a long, long time, where at the end of his loan spell in Portugal, he was worth nothing. We got 2 million from £40 million player. So traditionally we have been very poor with loaning players out. So if this is a club that we can trust, that we can send players over there, they'll get a lot of game time. And you'd imagine the club would have maybe a representative. It's almost like a holiday camp. When you go away with TUI, there's a representative at that hotel waiting for you to make sure your holiday goes smoothly. Maybe we need one of them. We need a West Ham representative in this club. That's something West Ham have focused on a lot, the player care side of things, when we had Hugo as the liaison manager, and he's moved on now to start his own company, but we've replaced him. We still have liaison officers. I think it started off with just one. I think there's now more than one there, so that when we bring in players, particularly from abroad, it's a case of as soon as you rock up, here's your mobile phone, where's your kids, let's get them into a school, here's a house for you, what do you need to live, essentially. And essentially, if we can do that so that it becomes an environment where the players are comfortable going over, and we send numerous ones, so it's not just right, one youngster, off you go and struggle on your own. We're going to send 4 of you and you're going to live together and stuff over there. I don't know. Hopefully that's a good thing. There's another couple of things I'm intrigued by or hopeful for with this. And one of them is tapping into the Austrian market. There have been some top talent coming out of that Austrian league for years now. For years. You go back to Sadio Mane coming out of there. For years, there's been some really good youngsters. Now Salzburg hoover them up. Right, Salzburg suck them up and then tend to give them to Leipzig, but there is some incredible young players in that Bundesliga. And the rumours are Steidten's the one that's driven this. Steidten's the one that's set up this affiliation. Now, if he has done that, you have to assume it's with player recruitment in mind. If it was Mark Noble, you would assume it's player development, and he would be saying, right, let's get these youngsters out there. But because it's Steidten, I'd suggest it's more down the recruitment path as to why we've done this, and that feeds into your work permit one. And there's another one we'll get onto in a second. But I'm actually hoping it's to tap into the Austrian market, because there will be players in that league that this club, Klagenfurt, can't afford. They will be like, he's a top player, but we can't afford him. So this is where hopefully West Ham come along and go, well, we can afford him, so we'll buy him. You can have him for the season.
Yeah.
You tell us where the talent is. We'll go and do our own due diligence. We'll do our own scouting. And then you will benefit from that, and that you can have him for the season. Then we will take him once he's ready for the Premier League. So I'm hoping that is what we're doing. If I could pick anything to happen out of this affiliation, is that we tap into the talent of the Bundesliga, and we essentially become the Premier League with first dibs on the best players in that league. Because I don't think any Premier League clubs really done it yet. But I think it's there. I think it's there.
Yeah. I mean, look, I absolutely agree with all that as well. But I think that the main thing, and you touched on it then, is it has to be mutually beneficial. Last thing you want is the Klagenfurt, either their hierarchy or their fans, to be thinking, oh, this is bad news. You're absolutely right. If they're thinking, actually, we, as you say, we can't afford to buy a player for 10 million, but actually West Ham can afford to buy a player for 10 million. And park him with us for a year, no problem at all. And also they're thinking, well, hold on a second, we're also going to get our hands on some of the best young players in the Premier League as well. That's a real benefit for them. And if in turn, we all understand the benefits to West Ham for this, but if in turn that allows them to maybe qualify for Europe or something like that, which again will sort of get their revenue up, then hopefully it's win-win. But I really do feel it has to be win-win for these. And I'm glad it's not. I'm glad it's an affiliate rather than ownership, because I do feel that some of these clubs where they own other clubs, it's to their detriment. You just mentioned one there. Because of Leipzig, Salzburg have a ceiling. They will never. They can Salzburg can never overachieve and be bigger than Leipzig. I know they're in different leagues, but even if they got into Europe, because it's still, it's basically it's big brother, little brother there, and they're always going to plunder from them. So I know people might say, well, that's the same with the affiliate, but at least it's not ownership. You're not at boardroom level. That's not there. You're not. I feel that the ownership kills a club's ambition, and I feel it's important West Ham don't do that, and hopefully this allows Klagenfurt to grow as well, which is what you want.
The second biggest hope probably is when a lot of people, understandably, point at Brighton and say, hey, can we have that model, please? And I think sometimes it's almost like people discuss how well Brighton buy players and sell players, but what they don't necessarily do is discuss the bit in the middle, which is the player development. I think that gets underestimated a lot. It's not like Brighton buy a player for 3 million and he's good enough straight away. There's a bit where actually they spend time away from Brighton getting better and improving, and then they come to Brighton and they're ready to rock and roll. I don't know enough. I'm not a Brighton fan, but I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of the players that make it into the Brighton team don't actually feature that much for Brighton under 23s. I'd imagine majority of their appearances will be for other clubs. Now, obviously, this is a little bit different because Tony Bloom does have another club over in Belgium. He's got Union SG, and it's come under scrutiny a little bit because they did well last season. They qualified for European football, and this is where there was a bit of an issue over the summer because now Brighton are in European football and so are Union SG. So hang on a minute, now that guy's got two clubs, but they're allowed. The UEFA passed it and they're allowed. But when you have a look at Brighton's signings in the summer, a lot of them that they spend money on, and it's low fees. So again, it goes under the radar. It's 3, 4, 5, 8 million, no more than that usually. Probably the biggest one that comes to mind is Abdullah Sima. I remember him. We were in for him. Brighton got him and loaned him out to Stoke and Rangers, and it's not really worked out for him. But there is other ones as well. And one of the best wingers in the Premier League right now is Matoma. Well, they signed him for 3 million and immediately loaned him out to Union SG. They sent him to Tony Bloom's club. Andriga scored for Brighton this season. When he scored, oh, that was that guy. What did they do when I had a look? Brighton signed him. What did they do? Straight away, the same transfer window, loaned him out to Tony Bloom's Belgium club. So this is what Brighton are really good at this, which is identifying talent, but then developing them. And usually it's not even at their own club. It's somewhere else they go and they get the experience, they get the talent, they get developed, and then Brighton bring them back when they're ready. So it's a case of like, well, we're going to be selling him. So who we got? Well, we've got him out in the Dutch league. So we'll just call him back and we'll flog him kind of thing. And if you have a look at Brighton's business, I think it's thoroughly impressive the way they do it. Yundab played 20 games for them last season. Wasn't the best striker in the world. They've loaned him out this season. Well, out you go kind of thing. Let's retain your transfer value. You're probably not going to make it at Brighton, but what we're going to do is get your transfer value up and sell you, and we'll move on to the next project. So I think Brighton are very good at developing players. And like I said, we're crap at loaning players, but Brighton also do have that base, which is Union SG in Belgium. And I'd imagine, but by the looks of it, that's where they put the top, the ones that they think are going to make it. They tend to go there first and foremost. And they use other Belgian clubs as well, because when Belgians point their finger and say, hey, that's cheating, they go, I don't know, I've loaned players to that club and that club as well. So what's the issue here? But the two better ones were recently at Tony Bloom's club as well. So I'm hoping that this is something that we can tap into, because traditionally, take Sean Moore, for example. We signed him in the summer. What's the answer? Well, he's going to go in London 21s. We'll just chuck him in there. Actually, hopefully next summer, we'll say, well, let's get that youngster and let's immediately send him out to our club in Austria, where the football's far more competitive. He's massively going to benefit from going out there, because our under-21s league is not that competitive.
Equa would be a great example. Maybe we didn't have to send him to Sunderland,
Yeah. I think hopefully it's a good thing. It's one of those. It's difficult because we're looking at it a little bit sort of fairy tale stuff, aren't we? Going, oh, this could happen. That'd be wonderful. But hopefully, what's the worst thing that happens in a year's time? We think, oh, it's not worked out. We'll end our partnership. Thank you very much.
And we've spent $1.5 million on a midfielder who hasn't worked out. So yeah.
I was having a look at what I was clicking now. I was having a look at their transfers, because when I said maybe they can't afford players, and I thought, well, let's have a look. Now, transfer market website's usually really good, but I just don't think they've got the numbers for the Austrian league. If they do, they're not spending any money. It says they signed Iba May from Victoria Berlin, transfer sum's got a question mark next to it. But flicking through it, last summer they signed 10 players, maybe. All free transfers, Andy Irving being one of them. Signed Naller from Wacker, Staudy from Werder Bremen. So there's nothing really on here that makes you think, they're a club with money. This summer they took in 2 million. Well, that was us. The summer before that took in 200 grand, according to Transfer Market. But like I said, this might be inaccurate, but there's nothing there that suggests that they've got money at all to spend. Or
if you are an SK Austria Klagenfurt fan somehow watching this video, and somehow you're also subscribed to Hammerstein.
Well, there's not that many videos on Klagenfurt on YouTube, so
I don't know. Klagenfurt Chat is probably as a highly esteemed YouTube channel. Thank you very much.
Well, there's not much English channels discussing Klagenfurt, so
who knows? I haven't done a search yet.
We get Mexican fans find us because of
numbers.
Alvarez. I'm sure we're going to get an Austrian fan that finds us because of Klagenfurt.
Well, if you know a little bit about SK Austria Klagenfurt, we'd love to hear from you, because clearly we don't know very much, and you might be able to tell us actually we do spend some money, we do have signed some players, and it's just that website is sort of bereft of any real detail on it.
Anyway, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much for joining us. Yes, I know you're thinking you two are scraping the battle. We are. You haven't seen the video we did earlier in the forum channel. That is scraping the battle. But we'll be back tomorrow with normal content, as we'll be taking a look at the Manchester City game. Thank you very much for joining us. If you made it this far, you must have enjoyed the video. So please do drop a like by clicking the thumbs up. If you're new to Hammers Chat, make sure you subscribe as well. Myself and Gonzo, we'll catch you tomorrow with some real content.